Good afternoon. The Senate Committee on Rules and Administration is called to order. It is May 7th, 2026. It is 2:45 p.m. Members, we have a number of things to cover today, and it should be a fairly expeditious meeting. Senator Limmer, would you like to begin? We're going to hear Senate File 5200. Senator Limmer. Welcome to the committee, Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unlike a lot of the other bills that we're going to be considering today, which are late bills, this bill, the annual corrections bill, is starting out here. This is the Committee of Original Jurisdiction. As I said, this is the 2026 end of session corrections bill, a vehicle bill for corrections to any bill that has passed both bodies during the 26th session. Unlike the reviser's bill that passed earlier this year, changes in this bill may have substantive effect. For a correction to be included in this bill, the proposed correction must be approved by myself, Senator Latz, Representative Liebling, Representative Scott, and the chief authors in both bodies of the underlying bill to be corrected. Be assured that all proposed changes will be properly approved and checked before they're added as a floor amendment to the bill. We're simply moving Senate File 5200 to general orders so it's ready to be taken up whenever it is needed.
Thank you, Senator Limmer, for that explanation. Clear and concise, and for people who might be listening who aren't familiar with our process, they'll have an education as well. Members, do you have questions for Senator Limmer? Senator Rest. Are there other questions, members? Seeing no questions, Senator Limmer.
I move that Senate File 5200 be recommended pass and be sent to the floor.
Senator Limmer moves that Senate File 5200 be passed to general orders. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That motion is adopted. Senator Frentz, would you like to get your things arranged, or are you ready to join us? Okay.
Did we gavel in?
Welcome to the committee, Senator Frentz. The lilacs are blooming, which means it's time to talk about pensions, and I understand the proposal coming before us today comes from the Pension Commission. It is about pensions, comes to us late, but also that there's a legislative appointment in the proposal, so also here for substance, as I understand, I've been told.
Yes, and thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members. I apologize for the timing. I'm here to present the reasons that I want the Rules Committee to support the passage of Senate File 4276, the 2026 Omnibus Pension Bill. Included in the bill are the timing. As you know, we did not reach agreement with the other chamber until about a week ago on targets. We implemented those immediately at what then became the final pension hearing of the 2 years, last Tuesday night, at which, after amendment practice, the final bill was passed. Madam Chair, I want to highlight a few things, including legislative appointments, but the bill is substantial benefit improvement for teachers in St. Paul, cops, firefighters, 911 telecommunicators, parole officers, and all those categories in there. Senator Pappas serves and a past chair of the Pension Commission, so her being here, I hope she'll chime in that after a lot of work, the bill provides significant relief. Included in those benefit improvements are a removal of the, I would say, problematic delay that members of public safety saw for their cost of living increases. Formally, members may know that despite inflation being significant, we would have to wait up to 3 years. Last year, we improved that, and this year, the bill removes the 1-year delay so that members of the public safety community who keep us safe will not have to see the buying power of their pension benefit eroded. I see Senator Seeberger in here too and want to acknowledge her outstanding work on the Pension Commission. I have the bill here, Madam Chair, and I have the summary in my head. Tell me what information would be helpful, and I will provide in a timely manner and grateful manner.
Thank you, Senator Frentz. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you all know, the Pension Commission doesn't have the same deadline as others, and sometimes it takes a while for the bill to come together, but Senator Frentz has done an excellent job, and we really had a very emotional last meeting where we talked about how important it was that we had such a bipartisan effort on pensions and to safeguard the pension security of state employees, local employees, firefighters across the state. It's really important that we have a good working relationship, and we have that on the Pension Commission. And it was a unanimous approval of this final bill.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Members, do you have questions for Senator Frentz? Seeing no questions, Senator Frentz, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members, I move that Senate File 4276 be recommended to pass, and I
Sent to
believe
Finance.
sent to the Finance Committee.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
Senator Frentz moves that Senate File 4276 be recommended to pass and be sent to the Finance Committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, say no. And that motion is adopted. You're on your way, Senator Frentz. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
Senator Johnson Stewart. Senator Johnson Stewart is bringing two proposals to the Rules Committee. In both cases, these are late bills, and so Senator Johnson Stewart, what we'd like to do is for you to just share with us why the proposal is late. I will begin with Senate File 3236.
Excellent presentation, Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Senate File 3236 is the e-bike helmet bill, and I'm asking for your consideration today. It's actually a very complicated bill. There are many stakeholders on this topic, including bike advocacy groups, schools, law enforcement, and local governments. In addition, our committee considered the different means for funding this bill, and we did not resolve that until after deadlines. We've now determined that we'd like the funding to come from the active transportation funds. So due to the technical complexity of the proposal and the need for coordination with so many stakeholders, getting input, revising the bill language continued beyond the normal committee deadline schedule. As those conversations have advanced, it has become important to move the bill through finance so its fiscal and policy implications can be properly evaluated in the broader context of end-of-session negotiations. So I'm requesting that the Rules Committee allow the measure to proceed so the updated language may receive full consideration. And Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart. Members, do you have questions? This is the point in which you can rant, yes. Seeing no questions from members, thank you, Leader Johnson, for some levity today. Senator Pappas moves that the provisions of Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 6 be suspended for all further proceedings on Senate File 3236 and the previous committee report be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, say no. And that motion is adopted. Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, members, for that, and thank you, Madam Chair.
We'll put Senate File 4503 before the committee.
Excellent. So Senate File 4503 is a bill relating to thermal energy networks, and what this bill does is gives local governments the ability to bond for the construction of thermal energy networks. This bill, this bill was included in the state government Omnibus bill and passed off the Senate floor already. We amended the bill slightly in state and local government to conform with some recommendations and definitions provided by the reviser, and we just want the bill to travel as a standalone to match up with the House bill. The House companion bill passed off the floor with bipartisan support, and I ask for your consideration of Senate File 4503 be considered to move forward as a late bill.
Thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart. Members, this is actually very important. The timing that was reported by Senator Johnson Stewart is exactly what happened. The reviser's recommendations are important to get right. And I want to add, too, that this comes partly from our concern about whether an energy omnibus can make it over the finish line at the end of session. So for the advocates who spent time to put this together with Senator Johnson Stewart, it is very appropriate, in my opinion. This is important and is part of our clean energy agenda as well as saving people money on their bills agenda. Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll be a yes on the motion.
Other questions, members? Seeing no further questions, then Senator Frentz moves that the provisions of Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 6 be suspended for all further proceedings on Senate File 4503 and that the previous committee report be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion is adopted. It is on its way to the general orders. Thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart. Welcome, Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, members.
Welcome to the committee, Senator Seeberger, Senator Howe, and Mr. Rice. Please introduce yourselves and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I am Senator Seeberger here on Senate File 4667, and I've invited Senator Howe to present this with me as this bill reflects the culmination of years of work to extend a line of duty death benefits to firefighters who die of cancer on the job. Firefighting is the only profession that has been identified as a carcinogen. And this bill aligns eligibility for state benefits similar to a recent federal bill that enables firefighters who die from cancer for federal benefits. This bill was heard in public safety before the first and second deadlines and was referred to finance before the third deadline, but the fiscal note took a little bit to come in. It finally did, and we were able to figure out a way to eliminate the cost about a week and a half ago. And so once all the pieces fell into place, it ultimately made it a late bill, even though it moved along through the process within the deadlines. So I would ask this committee's consideration to move it forward.
Thank you, Senator Seeberger, and just so we're on the record, this is Senate File 4667. Senator Howe?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and committee. We passed a similar bill out last year, but with the changes in the federal law, and that bill actually didn't make it through conference committee. So this bill incorporates some of that that we had last year, and then makes it conform with the bill, so it includes those carcinogens that Senator Seeberger talked about. So it's a complete package again this year.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Members, do you have questions? Senator, no question. Senator Marty.
Chair, I move that Senate File 4667 be going to the Committee on Finance and whatever.
Senator Marty moves that the provisions of Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 6 be suspended for all further proceedings on Senate File 4667, and that the previous committee report be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed, say no. And that motion is adopted. Thank you, Senator Seeberger, for your hard work on this. It's important.
Thank you. Thank you.
I understand that we are going to reconsider the vote on the pension bill to make sure that we have made the motion waiving the concurrent rule number 6. That wasn't in my motion. Okay. I don't think you have to go back up. So I'd like to bring Senate file. Thank you. I'd like to move to reconsider the motion on Senate file 4276. Everybody understand what we're doing? All right. So Senator Frentz moves to reconsider. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed say no, and that motion is adopted. And then I'm going to say, Senator Frentz moves that the provisions of Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 6 be suspended for all further proceedings on Senate File 4276 and the previous committee report be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed say no, and that motion is adopted. We have one more piece of business. Lexi's making sure that the bill doesn't have to come back to us again. So she's doing her work. Thank you. We have Senate Resolution 130. It is in our packets. And this is a resolution dealing with the conduct of the Senate business during the interim between sessions. Mr. Bodnar is here and Lexi Stengel is here, and they are able to speak to the changes. Lexi Stengel? Ms. Stengel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You'll find a memo in your packet that includes additional detail, including an underlined and stricken through version of the current proposed resolution and the resolution from 2024, so you can compare the changes. I'll be brief in my overview, but happy to answer questions, as is Secretary Modern. The short version is that the proposed closing resolution, which is labeled Senate Resolution 130, eliminates a lot of redundant language, things that either are outdated or unused or confusing, and several paragraphs related to the Secretary of the Senate that are related to things that can be taken care of through our current HR procedures or taken care elsewhere in our policies or other resolutions. These provisions are brought to you by nonpartisan staff and we believe are non-substantive in their nature. There is one change that is substantive in the new proposal. If you look at Senate Resolution 130, it's on the second page, lines 13 through 15. And this is a new item that would allow the Secretary of the Senate to appoint somebody to an elected office if there is a vacancy. And those elected offices are things like sergeant, assistant sergeant, engrossing secretary, and those types of things. And that would only last for the interim. And that's the only substantive change that's being proposed. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Stengel. Members, there is a change here, so I want to make sure you've got time to review that before we take a vote. And Ms. Stengel has outlined the change, line 2.13 to 2.15 in Senate Resolution 130. Leader Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a reminder on point, or 2.13 through 2.15, what's the current process of electing those positions right now? I'm forgetting, we reorganize every 2 years, and at that point, we do a slate as a body of electing front desk staff and those folks. How does that work again?
Mr. Bodnar is joining us. Secretary Bodnar, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Johnson. I think Senator Johnson stated the process in essence correctly. There are two votes. The first is for the Secretary of the Senate, and the second is for the slate of the other elected officers. And I think the language you see before you just would permit the Secretary to hire an individual to fill one of those offices until the Senate convenes again.
Leader Johnson.
Thank you. And I don't mean to belabor it or anything, just trying to remember, how are those individuals identified for election? Is it the majority party will identify those that are going to be elected, or how does that work? How do we get those individuals?
Secretary Bodnar.
Madam Chair, I'm going to look to the first Assistant Secretary who might remember in detail exactly how that occurs. I believe there's a nomination made of each of those individuals, and that's voted on as such. I don't know if we've ever had a situation where others are nominated. No.
Welcome to the committee, Mr. Lynn. Please identify yourself for the record.
Is this on? Okay, thank you. Mike Lynn, First Assistant Secretary. It's been described, I think accurately, in my time here, it's mainly been incumbency in those positions. And then if there is a vacancy, it's been a name forwarded or suggested by the secretary for nomination to the position. And it's usually, again, in my time, it's been someone that's been in a role within that area, be it an assistant sergeant or a position at the desk for the assistant secretary positions. And the chaplain is an elected officer, and that comes from a nomination from the majority leader.
Further questions, Leader Johnson?
Yeah, well, thank you, Madam Chair. And I know this, I think this is straightforward. I think it'll be fine, but it seems similar to kind of our selection of judges in the state too, where sometimes, I'm not saying that it happens, but there could be a possibility where political games could be played with that position as well. So just wanted to see, but it sounds like it's coming from the internal process here where we're having people that are coming up through the system anyways. Those are typically the ones that we'll be picking within that. So I think I'm comfortable with the language then.
Thank you, Leader Johnson. Members, do you have further questions? Senator Limmer.
Madam Chair, should we allow council to correct the spelling errors on 2.14 and 2.15?
I'm not sure about that, Senator Limmer.
If I can bring your attention to those lines, there's a spacing,
Yeah,
a space need in between the words by, resignation, and on 15, shall and serve.
I noted that as well.
I don't
Eagle
want
eye.
to clog up the correction bill, Madam Chair.
Duly noted. Space is being added now.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator Limmer. Are there further questions?
No.
All right then, members, I'll move that the committee resolution, Senate Resolution 130, be approved and that the staff be directed to prepare the same as a resolution for consideration on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed say no, and that motion is adopted, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you,
Oh,
members.
Madam Chair,
Oh, Senator
before we
Pappas.
adjourn, Senator Limmer and I are going to reconsider our retirement because we didn't understand at all that motion on the pension bill. And so we need to stick around here a little longer to learn the correct rules.
Senator Limmer.
You may have heard there was a lot of nice words spoken about me in the Judiciary Committee the other day. I don't know, I can possibly face those people if I was going to run again.
Well, Senator Limmer, I have to say that there have been a lot of nice words spoken about you in places other than the Judiciary Committee,
Oh, no.
especially noting your sense of humor. And I'm really, really grateful that Senator Pappas is deciding to reconsider, because I'd like her to sit with me on the floor for a little bit longer. And Senator Rust, of course, is
Just kidding.
the institution as we know her. All right, members, seeing no further business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned.